Yeah, the world is so small till it ain't. Yeah, I'm building up a wall till it break. She hate it when I call and it's late. I don't wanna keep you waiting. I hope
Hi,
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Welcome.
Yes, I'm glad to be part of this and see it coming.
I'm so nervous. Can you tell?
Yes. Wow, it's
I'm
always the
usually I'm usually not that nervous.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it's the beginning and it's always like awkward to start something, but as you go, yeah, I start feeling normal.
perfect. But this is good. This is good because it's just a conversation. I've been doing this for a while with my blogs, but then of course it's different now that you're on camera and everybody has like a little reason to, nitpick on you a little bit here and there, but I think it's gonna
Yes,
go great. I think it's gonna go great.
yeah, it makes sense.
Welcome, Emery, to to whom we're becoming.
Yes,
So this usually is a blog, but in this case, after so many requests from most of my friends, basically the real reason why I started it as a blog was because I was seeing that the reading and writing culture is kind of like dying slowly. Everybody's like so
yes,
used now to videos and really short reels and memos. So it's like really people don't take time to sit down and read something. And
yes,
I feel better expressing myself. Of course, I can talk to you, but I feel better expressing myself when I'm writing because I get to, oh, this does not sound exactly how it sounds in my head. So let me, you know.
yes,
So I started it a couple of months ago. It was just like a very not strict thing. So it was based off of the fact that I have so many thoughts and so many feelings and emotions and things that I go through as a person in my 20s and 30s, especially being so many things, a woman, an African, and you're Rwandan, you're going abroad. It's of course this appeals to everybody. It doesn't necessarily need to be um, just for Rwandans, but I'm talking in a sense of where I come from and exactly where
yes.
they come from. And
Mm.
there's a bigger world out here that people don't really want to talk about, or they just like really navigate it in a very numb way. And then a year goes by, 2 years, and 3 years, and then eventually you're like, oh man, I've been here for 10 years and I've gone through all these things. And some you want to talk about, some you don't want people to see. So that was
Yeah,
mainly the goal of me starting the blog. And then later people were like, we need you to be on camera. We wanna see you have conversations with people. Because I was like, they were like, where do you get your ideas? And I was like, I have very interesting friends. I have
yes.
I talk to really interesting and I have really interesting perspectives on things. So that is why the idea came in the first place. But today, I'm of course moving from the paper to camera with you, Emery. So I'm going to give you the platform to kind of like talk a little bit about yourself for people who don't know you and where you are today, so we can quickly dive into today's topic.
All right. Yes, my name is Emery, and same as you, I come from Rwanda. I've been in the US for 2 years. I came for my master's and my students, and this is my third year being in the US. And yes, I'm interested to know and talk more about like the topic. I've been following your writings. Personally, I get to learn things and understand things when I'm like reading. So whenever I see someone who is posting something that is written that they have thought about and they want to share with the world, like I'm so interested in that. And I feel like that's how we got to connect more. And this is becoming a podcast.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah.
me and Emery are actually, for people who are going to be watching this, me and you met so long ago. I was still
Yes.
and I was a debater, and he was one of the coordinators and slash coach slash everything. And he's one of the people actually I did look up to in a sense because it was you're in a space where you're actually given the platform to express your ideas, to talk, to agree or disagree. And I
Yeah.
think it's a skill that I learned and actually helped me up until today. Now I have this.
Yes.
So I'm very, very grateful, by the way. Um, Now we can dive into the topic. What do you think?
Yes, I think I'm ready.
Okay. And I think also they should know that the topic today was inspired by you because you commented on one of my letters, which was about the power of telling your own personal truth. So when you commented, you raised a question, and I was like, this is actually really interesting. We should talk about this on the phone calls. I actually don't like to call this a podcast because I feel like podcasts are a bit too, so
Yes.
this is a very friendly, friendly phone call.
Yeah.
So the topic today states that bringing home the mindset in
Yes.
translation to growth, identity, and the weight of where we come from. I think I shared this topic with you, and I was like, we are just going to dive right into it and see each other's perspective on things. So I have a couple of questions in relation to this topic. And the first one is, what do you think changes us the most when we leave home?
Uh, for me, I think it's more about the exposure. Before I moved abroad, I mean in the US, I had a chance to work, to have a job that allows me to work outside of Kigali. I grew up in Kigali and raised in Kigali, but I also had the opportunity to move a little bit outside Kigali to see what it is about outside. And the same exposure that was me going outside of Kigali in Southern Province or Eastern Province is the same exposure that I see when I came in the US that changes how I see things. When you look at it, we come abroad having all these expectations of who we want to become, what we want to acquire from these countries, and also just being open to learn anything as we travel to different countries. And I feel like the exposure, the way it influences us and also impacts us is like it changes, and also it doesn't change, but it also expands the way we see the world. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah, you start seeing people who and places that are different. You start seeing how you as a person is different from everyone. But not only that, but you also start to see how other people make a living and make a meaning of life that is different from you. And then for you, you start asking yourself, what does this means to me? What does this means to me if I were not to be in this space? If I were to know these things when I'm back home? Because to be honest, we still watch videos of music, movies, and all these other TV series that we get to see what is out there. But when you are not living that kind of
You
life,
don't really,
yeah,
yeah.
there's certain things that you don't understand. But
Mhm.
when you start living in that life, that's when I would say the transformation start happening, because now you are there and you have to interact with the environment that you are in, which I feel like that exposure is what changes us. And I feel like when I was asking you the question, is that when we get back home, it's not like we are leaving all of this. We are coming with the full of ourselves when we left our country, and also what we have acquired and learned from these countries. We are coming back with all of those things. And then to me, it's more about how can we share this exposure to someone who has never seen it? How does that look like? And how do we bring open conversations like this that helps people to share ideas and perspective more than me coming and you are just seeing me doing some things, and then we don't know how to interact.
How to
That's the
communicate.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
But basically, when I read this question, I was like, it kind of like also goes a little bit broader. It doesn't necessarily have to appeal to people who are abroad. The question was to leave home, and you can leave home and go abroad. You can leave home and probably not go abroad and just maybe
Yes.
get a house, just not in your usual environment. And I kind of felt like once you're there, when I was growing up, I used to see some of my cousins and aunties, they will be living alone, and uncles, and they have a house and a car,
Yes.
and it's so good, and they can go and come and go at home however they like. Nobody's gonna ask them, "Oh, why are you home at this time? What are you doing? Why are you doing this and this and this and that?" And in my head, I was like, "That's still living home." But in
Yeah.
this case, for us, it's more of like really just leaving everything, including the people that you know, your culture, your daily routine, your actual environment, and moving miles and miles away from a place that you're used to. So in this
Yes.
case, I do agree with you. Exposure does change us, and but also there's a little, little thing that I don't really um, sometimes don't agree with in terms of like exposure, which is some people choose not to take in that exposure. You will
Yes.
find somebody that's lived here for years
Mm-hmm.
and they've been exposed to all sorts of things and people and languages and experiences and habits, but they still hold that that mindset and that way and that platform of doing things. And so that really just really amazes me. And it's either they have chosen or maybe they're just not really that exposed. You can live abroad and maybe not get the exposure. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, it makes sense. And to tell you like a little bit of like how I see it, for me, it's more about, first of all, now we are talking like when we get to this new place, like new country or any other exposure is like it changes the way. These are the three things that I've seen, and sometimes it depends on the person and how they interact with them. One is now how you start viewing yourself, you as a whole. Secondly, is also how do you interact with the world that you are living in. So that means, for example, now that I have come here, the culture changes. I get to meet with the people who have different faith as mine. I get to meet with the people who have different, for example, ethnicity as mine or skin color as mine. And then to me, it's like, how do I interact with these
How
people?
do I
They are
navigate it?
still
Yeah.
they're still human as I am. It's just that we have these differences. How do I interact with them? That is the second thing. And then the third thing is also, where am I going? How am I gonna use all of these things? So those three things determine how you're gonna then interact with the exposure.
Mhm.
For example, I've met with the people who for example, here in the US, where if you have a different perspective or different faith as theirs or anything, if you are not white or black, then you can talk to them. And to me, it's more of like, yes, you can choose that, but also it also goes back to how you want to interact with the world. Do you want to be isolated with the people that you think the same, that do the same, and
Mhm.
or do you want to learn how to interact with everyone?
And be broader.
And
Yeah.
yes, and that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of changes in the way that we express ourselves. It changes the way we communicate with other people. It changes even the way we have this discussion. Instead of me being upset about you not understanding what I'm saying, it's more about trying to understand what you're saying and why you are saying what you're saying, so
Mhm.
that me, as a person who has a different view from yours, I can fit in your own world. I feel like it's more of like connecting those three things, who I am, how I interact with the world around me, and where I'm going, where like becoming comes in, like, yeah.
Okay. So in this case, there's a question that actually builds up after that, which is when we get here, there's a
Mm.
perspective from people who, in this case, I'm talking if you've moved abroad, because we
Yes,
mentioned earlier that you could leave home and probably not move abroad, but like leave home. But in this case, we're talking for people who move countries and go abroad and somewhere far.
yes,
There's a perspective and a mindset from people who are left behind um, that they start seeing you in a very new angle, in a
yes,
very new perspective. Sometimes that perspective is true, and other times it's just not true entirely, or it's just some even get really defensive and it's very, I don't talk to you anymore because you moved countries. I don't associate with this person. It's a whole thing. You
yes,
know? And then you're like, this is where the second question comes in is grow like I believe that the second you're willing to leave your comfort zone and go and do something that you don't usually do, go to a place that you've never been, start a whole new life. There's so many things here. There's things that you tell people that you've learned how to do, and they think it's so basic, but it's really, really hard in a city full of very, very many people that
yes,
you don't even know, you know? And the language is different. Even if you speak French or English, in my case, I'm in Paris, you are in the US, even if you speak English and French, it's still really scary to learn how to take the metro, how to get your groceries, how to
yeah,
follow in class, how to not be late for appointments. There's so many things that, especially for us, I left when I was straight out of high school. So you can imagine I do not know anything. The only thing I know is home and school, okay?
yeah,
And when I'm not home, I'm at school. And if I'm somewhere in the middle, it's with a friend, and my dad has to drop me off or my mom has to pick me up. It's a whole thing. So this is my question. I believe that in those instances and when you decide to move out of your comfort zone, you're growing. There's growth.
that's true. Hmm.
Okay, so now the question is growth supposed to make us feel guilty? Because sometimes you will find I've found that there's certain conversations and a way that I used to be so open to some people back home that don't have anymore, you know? And in this,
Yes,
I'm like, I sometimes feel guilty
hmm,
for pursuing and going in places where I felt like this is where my destiny and where what I'm supposed to become leads me. But you feel guilty with family, you feel guilty with friends, you feel guilty with siblings. There's so many things, and you can't have certain conversations because the conversations are not the same anymore.
yes.
So are we
Um,
supposed to feel guilty? That's the question.
For me, I'll answer it in this way. So, as we come in these countries that we are in, one of the things that we do is we try our best to fit in, to learn the new culture, like to fit in. I think that is understandable. So that also changes the way that we normally used to act or interact with our world. Like there's some things that we start unlearning so that we can learn new things, how to communicate with people. There's a lot of biasnesses that we start putting on the side so that we can be able to make sense of what we are dealing with here. And when we are doing that, because of how energy we spend in it and how this becomes like our daily life, where you start to see when you come here in the very beginning, it's also strange because you're just like an outsider. And
Exactly.
then you try your best to fit in. And then when you fit in, then you start becoming a
And
stranger to your own
to
country. I don't
exactly.
know if that makes sense. Yeah.
That
And
does. It
I think
does.
that's where you asked is like, how does this become? Because now then the conversation back home and here starts changing. Your challenges here and their challenges back home, they are different in the way we see them and the way we interact with them. But at some point, they are also the same. That's what most people also don't think about. Is like we are going through the same thing, the same struggle. When you look at the people that we interact with here, the same challenges they face, I mean, in their daily life, is still the same things that everyone faces. It's just that
Exactly.
it's in another form of, the reality. Just because you're in the US, there's a lot of things that are here that are not in back home. There are also a lot of things that we have back home that are
That are
not.
not here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when you look at the challenges that we face, are the same. But back home, when you're telling someone that you are facing some things, they might not understand because what you are saying and the environment you are living in, for them, it's like a dream place for
You're
them to
not
be.
supposed to be feeling the way you feel, so you should be
Yes.
grateful that you are where you are and not complain, basically.
Yeah. Like, for example, when we talk about like even saving money, I feel like someone in Rwanda has a habit of saving that is good than me being here. Because here you get the money, but you also spend it at the same time. And when you look at the equivalent of what you save and what you have spent, it doesn't make sense when you
Does
look
not
at,
add up.
yeah, when you look in the perspective of someone who is in Rwanda. So it's those things. But what I would also add is that when we are trying to unlearn, so that we learn new things when we move in another country, let's not leave all of those things behind because it's still who we are. This is where we are coming from. And also being able to change when we are interacting with someone back home is also something that most people don't do. For me, I try to be intentional to
Mhm.
know who am I talking to, what conversation or what perspective are they
Are
coming
they
from,
having,
and
yeah,
then trying to match them. It's like switching you who have faith in another country and trying to come back to where you came from, but also not leave who you are as a person. Because part of it, they also want to learn from us. It's just that somehow along the way, it's two people who are trying to figure out how to understand each other. And I feel like that's the point. And yeah, and the difference becomes on how the conversation is approached and how we try to learn from each other. If I ask you in Paris why everyone were in this way, and you tell me this is a way of how people are doing it, and then to me from where I'm standing, it doesn't feels right, but
yeah,
on your side it feels
it
right.
feels
But
right,
if I
yeah.
don't ask you why people dress in that way, so that I try to understand what makes them do that way, then I'll miss the whole point of it. And then if there is no that openness of that conversation, you also that I'm trying to learn from, you are not gonna feel
Included,
not able to share your
yeah.
experience as you have as you are experiencing it from where you are. So I feel like it's that openness of the conversation where people need are willing to understand the
Each
other
other,
side
yeah.
rather than just putting their own observation to what they are saying. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
It really does. And in this case, it kind of like wraps up to what our conversation was, in our little offside
Yes.
chat, which was, do we owe something to the people back home? Or can we just change and evolve on our own? And is that supposed to be enough? Because in this case, you arrive here, you encounter very many different things, you grow in so many different ways, and it's like sometimes your home environment tries to make you feel like you owe them something, you know?
Yes.
Um, if there's a step that you take, if there's any amount of growth that you have, it's like very automatic that you're indirectly, not directly, they don't force you directly, but indirectly you're forced to share your growth,
Yes.
it could be in this case, I would love to say it could be emotional and mental and inspirational growth, but in most cases it's financial growth,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
more of anything you gain, because you got this opportunity. You're supposed to, you owe me something. So do we owe something to our home environment? And in this case, or else are we allowed to evolve on our own? So in this case, for us, the conversation was creating these platforms, these spaces for people to talk, to share their ideas on what they think on certain things. Do we want to give them that? Or can we create those spaces for ourselves and then just keep and hoard onto it on our own
Yeah.
so
Uh,
they don't get those spaces? And if even they get them, they can, get some based back home and we get ours. And it's a very segregated thing.
yes. Yeah. For me, well, when it comes to finances, it's different, and it will change how we see it. But when it comes to, do we owe ourselves to share whatever that we have to like our friends, our family, and like back home? I would say yes in this perspective, and it doesn't also have to come from one side. That means us who are abroad.
You're
It also
given.
has to come from them. Because when I talk to my friends too, it seems like there's a lot of things that have changed that me too, I need to catch up. I don't know if that,
Exactly.
you know,
I
yeah.
know.
When I talk to my friends, they talk about things, and I'm like, uh, what's happening? Like, I
What
need to
is
catch
going
up,
on?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So you see that it's no longer about us also who are abroad. It's also about those who are in Rwanda that we are trying to learn from. Because either way, you also want to be updated on what is happening in Kigali and
I get
how
a
things
lot
are
of,
going.
I have a lot of fear of missing out.
Yes,
It's so big. I can't. Sometimes I see friends getting together, birthdays, family, and I feel, I feel so excluded, and nobody's genuinely excluding me. They're calling me
yes.
the whole way through, they're FaceTiming, they're doing all these things. But I still feel like that's the place I'm supposed to be because I'm supposed to feel that way. That's home.
Yeah,
But,
that's
you know,
yes. But to add on that is that, like, I with me and my friends, we do this like just friendly, just to see what's happening in my life here, what's happening in their life back home. But I feel like the point of sharing and knowing that you owe something to others, it's very powerful in a way of not just the act of giving, but also in terms of also sharing what you have, either the experience, either the resources. Like, for example, if we are talking about to whom we are becoming, our friends who are back home, they're also passing through the same process. It's
exactly.
just that
It's
maybe
different. It's a
but it's
different environment. Yeah.
as it's the same thing that all of us are going through. And sometimes, because of how the fast pace this world of today is going, no one is talking to each other, no one is sharing to each other. Like, we have, I don't know if it is us who are abroad, but we have also started to lose the sense of community, where it's no longer me who goes to school or who goes to work and I learn everything that I get from there and just get back home and get rest. And when I talk to people, my friends who are in Rwanda, that's the same thing. But we have started to live in an isolated world where we acquire all of this, but again, we
We
end up
keep it
having
to
to
ourselves.
ourselves,
Exactly.
Well, when you look at on the other side, everyone is passing through the same thing, but we are always on different uh, uh, would I say line of life, where
Yeah.
something that I'm experiencing now or in the past year, or a resource that I have found, or a book, or your letters, if I put it somewhere on a platform that is accessible for everyone, someone can learn from that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because let's forget that you have your young siblings, your brother, your sister, who are looking up for you. If you share a resource that you feel like have helped you and they read it, at some point they might not even understand right away.
Hmm.
But along the way,
When
when
the
they're
time comes, yeah.
when time comes and they are interacting with the world, either in terms of them growing or in terms of them moving abroad or in terms of anything, that kind of resource is gonna connect, like it's gonna give them an exposure or an experience that they would learn from you that normally they would have, like, you know, failed in the normal life and get to learn from that. But if you share all of that, or even our experience from here, it gives them an idea of what that looks like to be in this position.
Mhm.
And at least I feel like that moment of sharing is what I would say that we owe them. And it's not about us who are abroad who are supposed to share that. I would wish that they would also do the same, that we
Exactly.
can learn from them, so that either way we want to keep up with what's happening in Rwanda and all of that. And the better way to know it is to learn from the people who are there Same way that if they want to learn from what is
They
here,
can do that.
the best way to learn from it is people like us who have been in Rwanda and they are here, and we can be able to share our lived experience to them.
Mhm.
I don't know if
It
that
does. It does. It makes sense. I love these conversations with people because I feel like I'm not alone. I'm
yes,
talking to somebody who is going through the same thing. And in this case, maybe you could say, like, even for the future guests I'm going to have, some are going to be abroad, some are going to be back home. But, still, you still keep
yes,
that mentality of happiness and openness, you know? Now, to
mhm,
sum up, this conversation and this topic is very broad and long,
yes,
and we will keep talking about it moving forward with the things that we learn, with the people that we meet, and we keep creating spaces for people to share and learn from each other, like you said, regardless of where you are at the moment. So
yes,
I would like people, if there's anything that people take away from this, is that perspectives are very many. I have mine, Emery has his, any other person who's going to be watching this has theirs, you know. But are we willing and are we humble enough to sit down at one table and put them all there and assess each one and learn from each one without judging or feeling left out, and just like feeling like the space is leveled for everybody,
yeah,
leveling that playing field. And that's something that we can only do with our mindsets. Um,
that's true.
and so I am going to take this opportunity to close this off.
Yes.
Thank you so much for talking to me. We're gonna probably move our little conversation inbox, so whoever wants anything more will just have to talk to us. I love the thing that you do and you share Instagram stories of certain thoughts that you have. I read them all the time. It's
Yes.
so interesting, and I would, love for you to share them a little bit better, just like, or maybe more places, like I don't know, something like that. This was so good having you, Emery. Emery, it's so early back at your place. It's 2 and 3 in the afternoon for me right now. Thank you so much for making the time, for accepting my invitation, for being my guest, for sharing your thoughts, and for being who you are. I know for a fact that you're so smart and open-minded and just really, really inspiring. So I hope to see what the thoughts, maybe the comments of everybody who's going to be watching this are going to be. I just really hope they see you as a very broad and really open-minded person, because I do. I really do.
I hope that I hope that that's how it's gonna go.
Exactly.
But who knows? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The best thing is knowing that we are doing it for the better,
Mhm.
and that's what matters.
Exactly. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Emery. And for everybody who is watching, we will be having, of course, more guests as the weeks come. So every Tuesday, it's going to be the blog letters. Those ones are not going to stop. Those are my personal touch to things. But then the phone calls are going to be happening on Sundays. So if you're watching this, this will be on Sunday. And I hope you enjoy it and I hope you have fun. And this is a very friendly conversation, nothing scripted or anything. This is just a very back and forth thing. I appreciate everybody that will watch, and I can't wait to see who my next guest is gonna be. Are you
Yes.
excited?
You mean me on this side?
No, you for the next guest.
Yes, and I really want to see who is coming next, and and the following ones. Yeah, I just like the open conversations like this.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
And
thank you.
bye.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.